As I begin this recording, a friendly reminder to please keep your audio and video disabled at all times. Nothing you put in the chat box will appear in the recording. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Maggie and Dr. Porter, you're welcome to take over.
Thanks so much, Brooke, and welcome everybody. Welcome to August. Can you believe we're in August already? It is my distinct pleasure to be here with you with our guest speaker, Dr. Valencia Porter. I've had the great pleasure of knowing Dr. Porter for years, from the beginning of my journey with the whole Chopra community back in California. So it's an extra special treat for me to bring to you a leader in preventive integrative medicine, as well as Ayurvedic lifestyle consulting. So we will say hello to Dr. Porter, and then we will go into the introduction. So Dr. Porter, welcome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey through the medical world, and also your interests with the topic for today, which is resilient health?
Hi, Maggie. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here with you all today. And yeah, so I started out my career as a conventional MD medical doctor, started my path in pediatrics and child neurology, pediatrics neurology actually first. And I realized quickly that there was a lot that could possibly be done preventatively. I felt like I was dealing with the mess after things had happened and trying to put people back together. And I decided to take a different pathway, and I went and I studied preventive medicine. So I had another residency in preventive medicine and also in integrative health. I studied at the Andrew Weil Center at the University of Arizona, as well as with Deepak Chopra and a number of other luminaries and just amazing people in the field of holistic and integrative medicine. So I, for the last, now almost 20 years, have been really promoting health and in a personalized way, and really incorporating this beautiful system of medicine called Ayurveda, which is from ancient India, and it really is an ancient personalized system of medicine. And so now I am blending the ancient tradition with modern technology, utilizing labs and all that other great stuff to really help people to thrive, to optimize their own life, because we're all, bio individuals. What I've learned is we are all so different. We have similarities and similar paths, but not everything should be treated like a cookie cutter. So that has been my journey. And I got really interested in toxicity, partially because of my own health journey. And I ended up getting a master's degree in environmental health as well. And then just went down the rabbit hole dealing with my own health issues and helping my clients. And then I was like, oh, people need like a nice handbook. And so I wrote the book.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. Again, it is both a personal and a professional honor to have you here with us today. And you guys, we're going to be focusing on her book, Resilient Health. So you should have received in the email a copy of the quiz, or a little checklist of her top tips for using, reducing toxins and living toxin free. And if you didn't get that, we'll be sure and get that to you. So I'll go ahead and do a brief intro, and then we will come back and welcome Dr. Porter to begin the review of the book. So let me go ahead and share my screen for just a moment as we now orient to our topic of the day. So welcome everybody to our monthly wellness program, Daily Habits to Thrive, as we look in ways to optimize you. My name is Maggie Griskin. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm a lifestyle medicine, health and well-being coach, and your guide for today's discussion. So each month, if you have been joining us, we've been focusing on a different wellness topic, all focused around the idea of lifestyle and how can we look at our daily habits as a form of preventive medicine to stay in that sweet zone of health and well-being. So all of the different past sessions you see here from January to July have been recorded. And if you missed any of those sessions, we invite you to check the San Antonio Public Library YouTube channel, and Brooke will post that in the link soon. So you're able to find the link and see any of these recordings from the prior month's topics. For today's topic, we will be focusing on the concept of resilient health and the idea and the question of how to thrive in a toxic world with our guest speaker, Dr. Valencia Porter. Now, Dr. Porter is a leader in integrative, preventive, and environmental medicine, as she shared with her journey. And her passion is to combine ancient wisdom traditions, such as Ayurvedic medicine, along with the latest research science from modern medicine. So she discussed in the past decade plus, she's been working with Dr. Deepak Chopra at the Chopra Center for Wellbeing, where she served as the former medical director, looking to achieve total mind, body, spirit well-being. And so today's focus is on her book, Resilient Health, How to Thrive in a Toxic World, a handbook, really, for our modern day age, where we may not be able to avoid toxins in our environment. So how can we tool up and choose wisely to live in a more toxin-free world? So I always like to start our get together, as now we have settled in perhaps. Welcome to everybody for joining us. I invite you to post in the chat if this is your first time joining us, or if you'd like to share where you're joining us from, because our community goes beyond the borders of our beautiful city of San Antonio. We have family and friends that join us from around the world, so we always love to see where our friends are joining us from. So you're welcome to put in the chat if this is your first time and where you are joining us from. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining in. Beautiful. Joining us from Houston and South Carolina. Thank you so much. Love it. Okay, so now let's come together in this beautiful space where we create the opportunity for us to pause. And let's just do a quick check-in of our energy level. How are we showing up today? So just take a normal inhalation, and on the exhalation, just allow the shoulders to relax. If you're able to sit down with your feet flat on the floor, the head tall, shoulders relaxing away from the ears. And as you exhale, just feel all of that tension, releasing everything. Just let it go, let it go, let it go, let it go. And then effortlessly, just receive the breath like a welcome gift without effort. And then one more exhalation and just exhale. Letting go of all that no longer serves us. And then return the breath to normal and check in. 1 to 10, 10 being you're thriving, you're energetic, you're well rested, and 1 being, oh my gosh, I can't believe I had to wake up today. I have no energy. So where are you, 1 to 10 today, right now, this moment? And continuing to breathe, appreciating the moment, gratitude for this moment, time, and space together. And then what is your focus for our time together? What would you most like to learn, experience, and feel in our gathering? And then thinking of our journey in health, what is our wellness vision? What do we envision as our highest version, aspect of our best self in our energetic body, in our compassionate, loving heart, and in our open spirit, awareness? So when you're ready, relax the breath, returning to open your eyes if you're ready, when you're ready, and jotting some ideas, some thoughts that came to mind during that moment. Thank you for sharing that space and to being here and sharing your energy levels. Some are energy level 7, joining us from Tennessee as well. Welcome. Beautiful. People want to look at avoiding toxins, having more energy, and being pain-free. Thank you for sharing that. We will address those in the presentation. Now, my friends, Before we begin into the topic, we always start with this idea of the hero's journey. Our life as a journey and the adventures that we wish to take on. And in the area of health and wellness, what is your journey looking like? So Joseph Campbell, one of my favorite authors, talk about this call to adventure. It's usually when we get sick, when we have challenges, where we wake up to what do I want? So in our health and wellness journey, what do you want? What is your vision, your highest aspect of what does it look like to fully thrive, irrespective of those things we cannot control, including toxins and work and stressors? But what do we want? So how do we get to the threshold, start our journey, pick our path, and then begin to build our toolkits of our life challenges that we can overcome? So as we learn to grow through our challenges, we learn to grow in our capacity to change, to install those new habits and make that permanent change in the way we show up, in our behaviors and in our mindsets. So just taking a moment, your hero's journey, where are you? Are you embarking on that? Are you still thinking about it? Or are you ready to fully charge forward with us today? So as today, we're going to be focusing on the toxins in our environment. Without further ado, would love to welcome Dr. Valencia Porter back now to share and give an overview of her beautiful book, Resilient Health. And we'll be reviewing the main components, which include awareness, and then assessment and action. So Dr. Porter, thank you again for joining us, and we'll leave it to you. So if you want to share your presentation, and please share with us the main ideas from Resilient Health.
All right. Thank you so much. I'm just, oh, here we go. Slideshow. All right. Am I showing the right screen now?
It looks perfect.
Okay, fantastic. So thank you again for inviting me to speak with you. I'm really excited to share this information. Like I said, I wrote this book in 2018 after, well, kind of during and after a time when I was struggling with my own health challenges. I had chronic Lyme disease, mold toxicity, I had mercury toxicity, and it was at a period where I was dealing also with a lot of physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, job stress. So everything came crashing down, and I felt like Humpty Dumpty. Nothing was able to put me back together. So I really dug deep into all of the tools and the practices and the wisdom that I had learned, and added to it because of this environmental toxicity, which at the time to me really seemed like a hidden epidemic. I think it's really starting to come out in the public now with the help of movies like Dark Waters and more knowledge there, but we'll get right into it. But this is a constant journey. I love the hero's journey that Maggie had put up, because the arrows go around in a circle and they keep going. So I'm glad that I wrote this book when I did, because I was able to utilize it during the pandemic, and now I'm seeing how to revise it, given everything that I saw that happened during the pandemic. But I'll add some points as we go through. All right. So as Maggie said, there are, some basic concepts. So one is just awareness, becoming aware that our world is toxic. And I think we're all kind of becoming aware of that situation now, unfortunately, with all the climate change that's happening and all of these things that we have created in our environment. We have really created a toxic world. But what is a toxin? So from my environmental health training, actually the correct term would be toxicant, but I use toxin because that's kind of what everybody talks about. To me, the definition of a toxin is anything that is going to be harmful to your health. So, sorry, I'm trying to advance. Ooh, I went too far. There we go. So while we might think of, poisons, pesticides and herbicides that are sprayed on fields, and industrial toxins and waste that's getting into polluting our oceans and our rivers, pharmaceuticals that we end up going back into the water source, water table, and industrial farming, all of these things we're aware of, but we even make our own toxins in our own bodies by natural processes that we have to get rid of. So we have synthetic toxins, we have naturally occurring toxins, and especially for these naturally occurring ones, our bodies have had ways to handle these for a long time. Our bodies have natural ways of detoxifying, but I don't think we have ever had to deal with toxins to this level before, just the amount. Because since the end of World War II, we have put into the environment more than 80,000 new chemicals, and most of them have not been tested. Probably less than a dozen have been adequately tested, and none of them in this amazing chemical soup that we are bathing in right now. So how do toxins affect our well-being? Well, there are many illnesses that have been linked to the environment, and I think we are seeing that more and more now. But cancer is one that people often think of, autoimmune illness. And now I'm seeing a lot more autoimmune illness, as well as people with multiple autoimmune disease. So you see in this bottom graph here, the incidences of autoimmune illnesses like multiple sclerosis, Crohn's disease, type 1 diabetes. Those have all been going up. Things like asthma, allergies, those have been going up. People with food sensitivities, food allergies. I'm sure you're hearing about these more and more. And so these are happening. So many of these illnesses do have links to the environment. I think we're going to be seeing more if we look for them. Part of the problem is people aren't looking at what we call the envirome, the environmental components that really can impact our health and our illness. So one of these things that it impacts is chronic diseases in America. And chronic diseases really are a result of a lot of our lifestyle choices, as well as the environment that we live in. And our environment creates our lifestyle creates our environment. So unfortunately, right now, half of adults, 1 in 2, has a chronic disease, and a quarter of adults in the US have 2 or more chronic illnesses. And not only is this not wonderful for people's lives because they're having to deal with these things, but it's also really impacting our ability to participate in the community. So they're leading causes of death and disability, and really contribute to an enormous amount of healthcare costs. So what I propose is that environmental toxicity is this not only a missing link, a missing tidal wave. People are not seeing this. It's a missing link to health. In my view, health really is this combination of our interaction between our genes, so our makeup, what we're made from, our genetic composition, our environment, as well as our lifestyle choices. So what we get is a result of all of those things. But some people may feel like they're doing all the right things and still not being with health. They still don't feel healthy. I call this, the labs look great, feel like, what, illness, because their labs may be completely normal if you go to a traditional Western doctor. CBC, chem panel, liver function, all of that might look normal, but you might feel horrible still. And so what does the doctor have to offer you? They'll take out their trusty prescription pad and they'll offer you some antidepressants, right? So I don't think we all have a serotonin reuptake inhibitor deficiency. I think we need to look more closely at what are the things that create health and really create wellness. I've had so many clients who are doing all the right things. They're eating well, they're exercising, they're meditating. They still don't feel well. We need to look deeper and look into this puzzle and find out what else could be impacting them very often it is a chronic issue with chronic underlying infections and or environmental toxicities. So there is a lot of toxins out there, but not all of us have all of these toxins. So one question is, how toxic are you? So this is the assessment part. So we're aware that there's toxins out there. The assessment is, how toxic am I and how is this affecting me? So we'll look at, where these things are in their environment. Unfortunately, they are everywhere, and we are exposed to these things from the time we wake up and actually all the way to the time we go to bed, and then all through our sleep, because these toxins may be in our water that we're showering with and drinking, and we might even inhale some things. We're looking at cell phones, personal care products, the furnishings in our home, things off-gassing from our furniture, dust and particles that come up from our carpets and our furniture as well, our mattresses, our cooking surfaces, Teflon we are now hearing about, pesticides that we might use around our home, and herbicides, gassing up at the gas pump, and takeout food. So everywhere we are exposed, as I said, to this chemical soup. So how do we know how much we're going to have in our body? So here's a little quiz to see, how toxic are you? Do any of these apply to you? Do you use personal care products like cosmetics, deodorant, shampoo, lotion, cream, or perfume? Do you use plastic or styrofoam food containers? Do you drink unfiltered tap water or from plastic water bottles? Do you use conventional store-bought products to clean your home? Do you wear shoes in your home, inside your home? Do you eat animal products or fish? Do you eat processed foods? Do you eat non-organic, conventionally grown produce? Do you drive or ride in a car, ride a bus, or ride a bike near cars? Do you work or live in a building that has no openable windows? Do you sleep on a foam mattress or have furniture cushioned with foam? Are pesticides or weed killers sprayed in and around your home? And then some of the unseen toxins, which can be mental and emotional. Do you harbor anger, resentment, or hostility? And do you often feel overwhelmed or anxious? So this is just a brief quiz, but I think probably most people today can answer yes to at least one of these. So we have some level of toxicity. But we might see that two people might be exposed to the exact same toxin. One person gets sick, another person doesn't. So why is that? So part of that relates to our genetic makeup, how well we handle toxins to begin with. So there are people like myself, genetically, I do not detoxify some things well, like mercury. So I ended up having a mercury toxicity issue. I don't detoxify mold well. So I had a mold toxicity issue. So people like me are like the canaries in the coal mine. We are the sensitive ones that will, pick it up. I have a hard time walking down the aisle in the grocery store that has all the cleaning products in it, because all of the toxic smells, the fragrances in those products will give me an instant headache. So some people are particularly sensitive. So like myself, my husband, on the other hand, seems to be able to, I don't know, he could probably walk into a smelter and be fine. So different people have a different size ability to handle their toxic load. And we talk about this kind of bucket, our toxic bucket. So my husband's buckets are really big, my bucket's really small and can overflow really quickly. So our toxic load refers to the harmful chemicals that accumulate in our body through these exposures. And I wish that there was a great way to measure toxins, but unfortunately, because our body does such a great job at stowing some of these toxins away, oftentimes it's hard to know completely the amount of toxicity that you have in your body. And it's important to look at the correct tests. So for instance, with heavy metals like mercury, a blood test will tell you how much is in your system, in your bloodstream, over the last 60 to 90 days, the age of a red blood cell. But we stow mercury in our fat, in our bones. And so we don't know by a blood test how much we have completely in our system. Doing a urine test might tell you how much you excrete, and there's urine challenge tests that we use. Doing a hair test also will show you how much you're excreting, but some people are poor excreters. So in my practice, I use a combination of things to get my best estimate of what's going on with a person. And sometimes lab testing can be really, really helpful, but unfortunately, it is still always going to be incomplete. All right, I think we'll get to questions later, but if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the chat. All right, so we are aware that there's toxins. We have an idea that maybe there's some of these toxins in our body and maybe they're impacting our health. You know, I see people who deal with chronic fatigue, pain issues, weight that won't budge. So especially when people have been doing all the right things and things are not changing, I really think that's a time, if you haven't already, to look and see maybe some of these might be related to a toxic body burden issue. So, like I said before, our bodies have these amazing systems already in place to help us detoxify. And from an Ayurvedic perspective, this ancient wisdom from India, this ancient, wonderful medical system, you know, detoxification is essential and is essential to promote your body's ability to digest, metabolize, and eliminate not only nutrients, but toxins of all sorts, including mental toxicity. So our detox system, our bodies are constantly working because we're ingesting food all the time. We're dealing with microbes all of the time. Our body's breaking down. So there are things that are naturally occurring in our body and then things in our environment that our bodies have to deal with. So there are pathways. So our liver is a major pathway through which we detoxify. There are the kidneys, so the kidney and urinary system. So we got to pee and clear all those toxins. Our gut helps us to detoxify, and we have to move that garbage all the way out. So I see a lot of people dealing with chronic constipation, and that is a major issue because you're not taking out your garbage if you are not having a good bowel movement every day. So that's a great place to start if you are having that issue. We detoxify as well through our sweat, through our skin, and we detoxify through our breath. So many ways that we are mobilizing toxins. Several years ago, now time's just flying, so probably 5 to 10 years ago, they discovered the brain's detoxification system, the glymphatic system. So our lymphatics also are helpful for detoxification. And that brain detoxification system really turns on when you are asleep. So sleep can be part of that too. So that is why, for me, putting this in a framework of Ayurvedic lifestyle really helps to support optimizing all of our detoxification systems by optimizing our lives. So I mentioned before, we have these bio-individualities and our genetic predispositions. And so some people need to take that into account. So like myself, I take extra caution in some areas where other people might not need to. But I want to promote my body's detoxification system when it might not work so well because of my individual predisposition. So Ayurveda, as I mentioned, it's just such a beautiful, personalized system for whole person well-being. And we deal a lot in Ayurveda with getting the body in harmony, in balance with nature and with our own nature. So we describe these personal mind-body constitutions or mind-body types. There are 3 main types, and we want to try to help bring those into harmony as well. There is a concept called ama, which is toxicity, and ojas, which is like vibrant health. That's what we're striving for. And rupas are the sense organs that we take things in. So I'm just going to show you this, image here. So over on the left are all of our inputs, all of the things that we are taking in, these rupas that we take in through our sense organs. So we hear things, we feel touch, we look at things, we eat things, we smell things, and then we are also thinking. So we've got all of the mental and emotional inputs that are coming in as well. So all of these things that we are taking in, we need to digest and transform. We need to take, for instance, the food that we consumed and transform that into energy and nutrients. And the ability to digest, that digestive capacity is called Agni. Agni. Agni relates to the word ignite. So if we think about igniting that digestive fire, when we have a strong Agni, that strong fire, what we take in is metabolized and transformed into nourishment that is then transported throughout the whole body, and gives us ojas, or vital essence, where we feel vibrant. We wake up easily, we have ample energy, we don't have as much, pain, we digest easily. Ojas is where it's at. That's where we want to be. On the other hand, if you have a weak digestive power, it is like, trying to make a campfire with wet logs, right? It's going to smoke and smolder. It's never going to really burn completely. And you're going to be left with a wet, yucky log, this toxic residue, which is called ama. So ama, or toxic residue, clogs up the body, clogs up these channels, so that even if you're taking in the most pure, wonderful, organic, wholesome, cooked with love food, if it's being blocked by this agni, by this ama, this toxic residue, then we're not going to get the nourishment that we really need and want to have that vital essence, that ojas. So we want to, number one, ensure that our agni, and so we talk about our digestive agni, our stomach agni, but there are agnis all over our body, including mental agni. So the ability to digest experiences. What are we digesting when we listen to the news? And do we have a strong enough agni to turn that into ojas, or are we creating ama, or toxic residue? So we want to have strong agni all over the body and the mind, so that we can create ojas. And if we have created ama, which we create ama, or toxic residue, what can we do to clear that out? So there are specific practices in Ayurveda to help clear out ama. One wonderful one, which is just a basic practice, is scraping your tongue. So scraping off like visible ama. If you stick out your tongue in the morning, you might see like a white coating on your tongue. That is evidence of some ama. So there are many other practices that help to clear out toxicity, but I wanted to explain these concepts and why, this mindfulness. And I love that Maggie started out with, really checking in and tuning in. And to me, this pandemic has been, a blessing and a curse. One of the blessings was having a little time. And I think now people are acknowledging that we need this as well, to check in, to be more mindful, and to reflect, what is it that we're taking in and digesting. So how do we support our agni? How do we tame our toxins? Let's get into that next. Oops. So in the book, Resilient Health, I talk about, these 5 ways to help reduce our toxins, these toxin tamers. One is to really optimize our digestion. So I say digest to be your best. And there are so many things that can interfere with our digestion. And I'm really, as a preventive medicine physician and health advocate, I really am wary of people chronically using antacids and things like that for their gut. We know now that there are nutrient deficiencies that can arise and other things, alterations to the gut microbiome. But I'm wondering if, we're going to see a lot more health consequences from these things that people do simply. It's over-the-counter medicine, but is it really optimizing your health? Because I see a lot of people who have issues with digestion, and it can create a cascade of effects for your health. So optimizing digestion. Number 2, empty your garbage can daily. So I talked about that a little bit earlier, but we want to make sure that not only are we digesting, but we're also eliminating the things that we don't need. So pooping every day. I talk about poops all the time because they are important. I've gotten over, any kind of qualms about discussing that with people, because if we don't pay attention to emptying our garbage can, then think about all that toxicity that's building up inside you. And women in particular of menopause and perimenopausal age, if we are not having good bowel movements every day, you can actually be taking back up through the colon some estrogenic metabolites that may be harmful as well. So really, we want to look at, make sure that our garbage can is empty every day. Number 3, I said, let it flow. And that is really about making sure that our kidneys are working. So our kidneys are another major detoxification organ. And how do our kidneys work? They work with liquid. So many people don't get enough liquids in their diet. I'm going to take a sip of water right now. So making sure that we are hydrated enough that our kidneys can actually work. So and pull out those toxins in that way and not further stress our kidneys. So making sure that you're doing that. And, if you are not taking B vitamins that make your urine bright yellow, your urine really should be on a more clear liquid color. It should be practically clear. So if you have a, darker colored urine, chances are you're on the dehydrated side. Number 4 is love your liver. So as I said, our liver is a major detoxification organ, and there are, more than 50, maybe hundreds of enzymes that work, liver enzymes that help us to detoxify many, many different substances. So there are some things that we do to stress our liver out more, like drinking alcohol and taking Tylenol and things like that all the time. So really nurturing your liver, loving your liver, and helping it to do its wonderful job. Aside from detoxification, the liver does so many other things. It's such a vital organ to us. So really giving your liver some love. And then number 5 is free your mind, free your mind. So these mental toxins, and I think it's more common to hear about toxic relationships and toxic job sites and those type of mental toxicities that can really deeply affect people. So doing things that can help liberate your mind, your beliefs, your thinking, and free up the ability to feel well. In the book, I talk about 52 steps, and that is the checklist that was sent to you. And at the end of this talk, I also have a link. If you missed that, you can grab that at my website, valenciaporter.com/detox checklist. So as I was embarking on this journey, dealing with my own health situation, I got overwhelmed. I was like, oh my gosh, everything is toxic. I can't eat anything. I can't be anywhere. So I wrote this book because I was going down the rabbit holes, and myself, I was getting freaked out. And I thought, what can I do to help empower people so that they have the knowledge, but they're not freaked out? So I made 52 steps, or, there's a 52-point checklist. So what I suggest is that you look and maybe look at one each week and see if you can shift things, see if you can make an impact. And any one thing that you do is going to move your needle towards greater health. So I'm not sure why, there we go. So I started looking kind of concentrically from inside to outside. So what's on the innermost part of us is what goes in is food. And then we move outward. So level one, let's pay attention to what we eat. This is, I think, the place where we can make the biggest impact in terms of optimizing our environment and minimizing the toxicities in our life, because most of us eat every day. Most of us eat multiple times a day. So we have ample opportunity to practice making healthy choices that are not only less toxic, but also help to optimize our detox system. So number one, I'm just going to go through these quickly in the interest of time. The book, of course, goes in more detail, and there's also more detail in some blog posts on my website. So I'm just going to explain what I mean by these. But if you want more detail, you can look at the book. Number one is eat a rainbow. So our rainbow of natural colors found in fruits and vegetables, not in Skittles, sorry. But that rainbow, number one, gives you so much nutrition. But number two, all those colors provide wonderful antioxidants that are so beneficial for our health, that help us to detoxify as well. Number two, choose organic. So avoiding the toxic pesticides that they spray on our foods. And if you can support organic farmers, that is wonderful, because more farms that can shift in this direction and that can show that it's profitable, the better we're all going to be. This not only impacts our health, but it impacts the health of our world. It is impacting soil erosion, which is a big issue, as well as the climate. So choosing organic if you can. If you're on a budget, I would recommend going to the Environmental Working Group and downloading their Dirty Dozen list and at least focusing on those. Number three, eat real foods. So not processed foods, a lot less processed foods, and really try to stay away from those GMO, genetically modified organisms, which are designed to take a hefty dose of pesticides. So those are usually like way high in those toxic pesticides. Number four, plant versus animal. I'll let you make your own decision, but there's a lot of benefits to eating more of a plant-based diet, not only for health, but for longevity as well. So much research there now. So leaning more in the direction of plants. Even if you eat animals, the more plants that you eat, the better. Number five, something fishy. So I just watched this movie, and if you have a strong stomach, you can watch it. It's called Plastic Ocean. It was horrendous. So while fish and fish oils may be good for you, I am really concerned about what we've done to our ocean and all of these microplastics that are everywhere. And I said several years ago, I was talking to some colleagues and I said, we are going to be, anthropologically, when they look back, we're going to be the layer of plastic, and we are becoming plastic. There's plastic in us. There's, hundreds of chemicals in us, and plastics are a lot of them, unfortunately. All right. Sorry, I hate being Debbie Downer, but that's the truth. Number six, drink good, clean water. Of course, we want to flush out those kidneys. Number seven is looking at sugars and sweeteners. Number eight is looking at fats. We need healthy fats. Those are really important. Number nine, fiber. Fiber is important for colon health. It helps support our gut microbiome. And fiber is also kind of like a broom that sweeps our colon. So really getting out all the nitty and the gritty. If you follow number 1 and eat a rainbow and eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, you will be getting a high fiber diet. So that's great. Number 10, love your liver. I already said that. Gotta love your liver. 11 is drink green tea. There are particular properties in green tea that make it especially beneficial and supportive of the liver and the detoxification system. Number 12, figure out your food sensitivities. So food allergies or IgE allergies, which people normally think of like peanut allergies where people's lips blow up and they might get anaphylactic. That's a food allergy. Food sensitivities are different, and people can be sensitive to foods that don't show up on a blood test, but they will impact your health. So I discovered that for myself and some of my clients. One client was eating a vegetarian diet, eating soy all the time, and couldn't lose weight despite a very low calorie diet and lots of exercise. And so we went through her diet. I discovered she was eating tons of soy. And I said, why don't you eat something else other than soy? And she did, and she lost all the weight. So food sensitivities are big and they're hidden. Non-stick pans, people are hearing about that a lot more now, about Teflon and PFAS. I hear in the news all the time now. So I'm glad that people are becoming aware of this issue. Number 14, don't eat or drink plastic. So I think more people as well are moving away from plastics, and we're seeing just how harmful it is to our environment, but also to our own health. Number 15, eat the 6 tastes. That is an Ayurvedic tip. So in Ayurveda, there are 6 tastes: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. And they are so wonderful to incorporate all of these 6 tastes. It really helps to satiate. Sometimes people overeat because they're not satisfied because they're missing one of these tastes, and they just keep eating the same potato chips, but they're never getting that, the pungent taste that they're looking for. So the 6 tastes is a wonderful way to eat. That I'll tell you that when I started eating Ayurvedically and shift the 6 tastes, that shifted my weight so that I could eat whatever I wanted naturally and maintain my weight. And I stopped thinking about calories and protein, fat, and carbs. So 6 tastes is a beautiful system. And then optimizing our digestion with mindful eating. So that is really helpful. We want to optimize that. I am trying to be mindful of the time here. So
I was just going to pipe in and say, oh my goodness, we can go through every single one. But I think if we can open up now to a general share on the different levels and
can I just finish the,
yes.
Let me just finish the 5 levels.
Yeah.
So I won't go through these individual ones. So the biggest one, which I wanted to share with you, was food, because I think that's where we can really make a huge impact. So level 2 is what goes on our body. So our skin, we absorb things through our skin. So all of our personal care products, we should pay attention to those. Our clothing, we should pay attention to what's in our house, our furnishings and things like that. That's level 3. So what are we living in and around our home, our garden, our yard? Level 4 is dealing with our mind and our emotions. And I could write a whole book on this, this one right now. And then level 5 is really, looking beyond ourselves, because I love this quote by Thich Nhat Hanh: the earth is not just our environment. We are the earth, and the earth is us. So as we become more mindful of what we're putting in our body, not only are we helping ourselves, we're helping our environment as well. Okay, now we can go back to open questions.
Thank you. And I could stay here for hours, of course, listening and going through these item by item as I'm writing down tips. So thank you, Dr. Porter, for that amazing and brief summary of this amazing book. So Resilient Health, you guys. Basically, Dr. Porter went through the first 4 chapters So from here on in, chapter 5 is all of those tips, the 52 specific ways to look at sources and ways to reduce toxins in our environment, our homes, and what we put on our bodies and in our bodies. So to get more information, please buy the book, go to your local library, check it out, and do the quiz. Go back to the quiz and see what your toxic load or amount of exposures might be in your daily day-to-day experience. And then just look for ways to reduce those. And one of the insights I got from listening to you, Dr. Porter, was this sort of pivot away from recognizing how we're addressing our own self-care and healthcare continuum. We can't really wait to get sick anymore because some of these things that we're experiencing take years and maybe decades to build up in our body. So it may take years or decades to unravel. So when you were going through the Ayurvedic approach of preventive, right, a form of dinacharya, we call it, self-care, this for me changes the language of healthcare and self-care from focusing on the absence of disease. We're healthy because we don't have disease, we're not sick, we're not feeling the symptoms, to what you're saying now is to look at the subtle status of our mind and our body and our energy. And to now, how can we ask a different question? What are the symptoms of wellness? Right? Am I healthy? And how do I see that? And so when you said the tongue scraping, we do different methodologies, different protocols in Ayurveda. So with that, I love that your book is this introduction to this approach, how we can empower ourselves to not only identify, but ways to reduce the kryptonite, those things that are going to zap us of our superpowers. So you are ahead of the curve because I just want to highlight, you published it in 1998 or 2018.
Yeah.
And in 2020, the CDC published its revised definition of what is health literacy. And it's such an important distinction. I wanted to just highlight it here because your book is an example of where we need to go. When they published the Healthy People 2030, the CDC changed a couple of words, and the definition is no longer just the degree to which individuals have the capacity to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and services needed to make appropriate health decisions. The focus now is the degree to find, understand, and use information. So this is a book where we can use the information. So we need to now just kind of step up our game on how we can show up, right? And as Deepak Chopra in the foreword to your book says, the time is now to shift and just grow in our own personal responsibility. And so health literacy is now becoming one of the important segments of our society, right? So I want to thank you so much for sharing the wealth of knowledge here. There is a question that talked about how do we avoid toxins? How do we get more energy? And how do we free our joints from pain and all that? So if you'd like to address those, and then we'll see if there are any last questions that come up.
Yeah, I mean, really looking at all those lifestyle habits, and I think Ayurvedic lifestyle change is a really powerful tool because you could go to anyone and say, okay, go on this diet, do this exercise, blah, blah, blah. That might not suit you particularly. And so that's what I love about Ayurveda is because it's tailored to your own needs, your own mind-body constitution, and your own imbalance at this time, at this moment. So while somebody may do great on like high intensity impact training, another person might need to do like hatha yoga, and that would be the right type of exercise. So that to me would be my big recommendation for dealing with pain, energy, and reducing toxicity is to start working on lifestyle change and look into Ayurvedic lifestyle change because I think it's tremendously supportive. And start with food. So food is, like I said, a big place where we get toxicity, and you can eat an anti-inflammatory diet that helps with pain and joint issues. and then energy level as well. I see so many people who they're eating all the time. They have enough calories, but they're not getting the right nutrients to activate their mind and their body and have that sustained energy. So when I really started doing this Ayurvedic lifestyle, that's when I noticed everything really started to shift. And I had all those issues. I had all of those issues.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. So basically, as you reviewed, a way to avoid toxins is number one, realize that they're coming in from all of our senses. Like you said, those pathways. So are we aware? Let's be aware first of those sources of toxins. And then, like you said, customizing it to our unique tendencies. You know, our doshas are not our destiny. It's how we choose from the environment and our choices. So to get more of that energy, to build that Agni, like you were saying, how can we choose better for our unique mind body constitution, whether it's the foods or what we're looking at, what we're wearing, what we're smelling? Any of our senses are giving us that energy, but is it right for us? And can we detox those things appropriately? And then the ama, how can we reduce the pain, the joint, all of those symptoms of dis-ease? You know, so choosing rightly for us and honoring that we're each unique. So our pathway is going to be a little bit different than our family or our coworkers, and to honor that, yeah, it's going to be different. Your fitness program may not be the same for me. Your diet may not work for me. And let's honor that and say, awesome, I'm open to my own hero's journey.
Exactly. Beautifully put, Maggie.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Dr. Porter. Do you have any final shares? We're going to put your website, any other way that people can reach out to you, any other events coming up for you that you'd like to share?
We also have a few questions when you're ready.
Oh, we can take questions.
Yeah, I got a lot of private questions. Sorry, everybody. I did not mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure they got covered. So one of them was, what was the most challenging thing while trying to detoxify your environment and your body?
Oh, so one was the toxins are everywhere. Number two is, you know, there can be some expense in choosing less toxic products. So that's also part of the reason why I dove deep in this book, is because sometimes you have to make a choice. Sometimes you have to do your best. So figuring out, where do I want to invest? And then also in detoxifying your body, figuring out, well, maybe I have all these toxins. Maybe I have mold and plastics and heavy metals, but then look at the symptoms. How are they impacting your body? Does it relate? Because somebody might have, one toxin elevated, but it doesn't have anything to do with their symptoms that are presenting. So is it worthwhile to invest in reducing that toxin? Probably not at that time. So really taking a mindful approach there as to reducing them and figuring out a plan.
We did have another question. When you had your slide up about level 1 and particularly the foods, about how you can get rid of toxins that way, one of your bullet points was don't use nonstick pans. Our question is, what about ceramic or green pans?
Yeah, so a friend of mine, a colleague, has done some wonderful investigations, and I believe her website is Mamavation, like MAMAVATION.com. She's done some fantastic investigations of nonstick pans and ceramic cookware. She does have product links that are affiliate links, so she does get paid by some of them. But I trust her research. I know the scientists that she uses. So yeah, you want to look and see some of these cleaner. So there's something called greenwashing, where people know, or companies know, that people are looking for these less toxic, more environmentally friendly products. And so they'll put some green labeling on it, but it might not be the best option either. I personally have switched to a very high quality stainless steel. It drove my husband a little crazy initially because he's the primary dishwasher, but now I've shown him some techniques to help with that. Our food has been wonderful, and the dishwashing is not so bad. So, but yeah, we need to move away from that Teflon.
Another question, you were talking about how switching to organic products, possibly a keto diet or fish sustainability. Well, our question is, even organics come in plastic. A lot of our fish products that you buy in store, like pre-cut fish, comes in plastic. Do you have any suggestions about how to handle that?
Yeah, my kids laugh because I write letters. I will write letters to people saying, why do you do this? Why are you putting your beautiful organic food in this horrible plastic container? I don't know how much impact that's that's making, but yeah, it's a problem. It is a problem. We just have to do our best. Some things like okay, plastic, especially with fatty and acidic foods, so that will leach the plastic more. So if I have, this has not happened in a while, but let's say you buy a fatty fish and it's wrapped in plastic, I would take that out of the plastic as soon as I get home and put it in butcher paper or put it in a glass Pyrex container or something like that. So avoiding the length of time that it's touching, especially if it has fat or acid, and then of course, not cooking it, because that will help reduce the transmission of plastics into that food.
I have a
couple
question.
other questions.
Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead, Brooke. I will ask after you finish.
A couple other questions that deal with plastic. Is it safe to use BPA-free reusable Ziploc bags for food storage?
So because BPA was found to be harmful, and now everything says BPA free, but we have to wonder, well, but even though it's BPA free, what is it? Because a lot of the plastics that became the alternatives, like BPS or other biphenyl plastic products, have the same or worse toxicity than the original BPA. So silicone, food grade silicone seems to be okay. So those are the bags that are reusable, like Ziploc bags that I use is a food grade silicone. But you have to be careful. If it says BPA free, just look and see what is it exactly. And I go into detail in the book about all the different types of plastics.
And one last question. Is it safe to use plastic microwave splatter covers that don't touch the food?
I do. If it's not touching the food, I'm not as concerned about it. Yeah.
Okay,
I have a
great.
question.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have a question. I know we all take bottled water, thinking like, Ozarka, there's so many brands. Is it safe to eat? I mean, is it safe to drink the bottled water? I mean, we are all taking the bottled water somewhere going, and then that is in plastic. That's not in glass. So
Yeah.
how safe it is?
So there is some plastic that's leaching into the water, especially if it's heated. So while it might not be heated in your house, we don't know what happened in the transport of it. Like it was shipped in a truck in that bottle. Was it sitting out in 110-degree heat in Arizona or 120-degree heat and leaching all that plastic into the water? So the more that you can get away from drinking out of plastic water bottles, the better. Not only for the environment, because plastic water bottles are a huge issue. The amount of plastic water bottles that we use a day is staggering, but it also does impact you. So I go into water and what type of water filters and what type of water I recommend in the book also. I might need to do an update, but so I drink reverse osmosis filtered water. I add back nutrients in, minerals in, and then I carry it around. So this is my water here, but I carry it around in either a stainless steel water bottle or a reusable Nalgene, which is plastic, but made from PET that does not leach plastic. So I really try to avoid using the store-bought plastic water bottles as much as possible.
In the interest of time, I do want to say there were a couple other questions that we were not able to cover, but Dr. Porter, if you'd be willing to share your email in the chat,
Sure.
if you're willing, of course. And
Yeah.
then if your question was not covered, or if you have more questions for Dr. Porter after we close today's session, please feel free to reach out to her and ask those questions. Again, thank you, Dr. Porter, for joining us. It was a great session, and we sincerely appreciate you taking your time to join us today. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and we hope that you have a great day and that you stay safe and that you had some good learning experiences at today's session.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.